control. I'm seeing red. Watch you rise, watch you fall. Now I'm about to break. Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this? Face the pain. Face the pain, no escape. Can you step to this?
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Fixed Fights podcast with Kurt and Ben. As always, I'm Kurt. I'm here with my main man, Ben. What's going on this week, dude?
Not a lot. Like we were just talking about before. It's just kind of like business as usual in MMA right now. Obviously, nothing's ever business as usual completely, but it just kind of feels like we're in that like every Saturday UFC card. That's it. Bang bang.
Yeah. And I feel like we've been in this for a while now. I mean, when's the last time, at least UFC wise, right? When's the last time they've had a weekend off? It's had to have been, I don't even know, 12 weeks, something like that? 8 weeks, 9 weeks? I have no idea.
Yeah. And the thing is, we had like a couple Saturdays, I feel like, or weekends where it felt normal. Like there was a pretty big UFC card, Bellator. You had like KSW if you want to watch that on like Saturday afternoon, that kind of stuff. But now with the UFC, they have to fill these time slots. They have to put on so many shows a week. These cards are not super deep, and they are every weekend. So it's a bit of a, I'm never going to complain about having a bunch of fights on, but it's not like still doesn't quite feel normal like it did beforehand, where it's like every UFC card, because they don't have to just constantly fill out events. UFC cards were a bit deeper. You had more Bellator, you had KSW that we cared about. You had more One. I guess, One is happening more often as well, but things don't feel entirely normal.
Yeah, there's a lot going on right now. But nonetheless, let's start breaking it down. Let's start off with what I think was probably the biggest event and matchup of the week, and that is the return of Mike Tyson. Took on Roy Jones. And if you don't mind, let me go first on this one, because I got a couple things to say about it, and I'd like to tie it into MMA, and I want to give your opinion on what I'm about to say, right? So I personally really liked the event. I was pretty critical of it going in, but after watching it, these guys are 51 and 54 years old. Mike Tyson hasn't fought since 2005. I was a little bit critical of like the exhibition thing and all that, but at the end of the day, like, I was pretty satisfied with it. I don't know, and tell me if I'm wrong. It looked like they were kind of, I don't want to say pulling punches, but Roy Jones never seemed like he had committed to too much. Mike Tyson was really digging to the body, but when it came to the head, it didn't seem like he was really going for the knockout, whatever. But I'm not like dissatisfied with that. Like, I didn't necessarily need to see a 54-year-old Mike Tyson get knocked out, right? Like, I didn't need to see that. I didn't need to see Roy Jones get knocked out. I thought Mike Tyson looked really, really good in this fight. I thought his cardio looked good. He showed some flashes of the old, like, bob and weave, take your head off Mike Tyson. I thought Roy Jones performed pretty well. I was pretty damn happy with it, man. First off, how did you enjoy the pay-per-view? Were you happy with it?
Yeah, I actually think, sorry if people are looking for disagreement here, but I actually think this was kind of best case scenario for all involved.
I agree.
It was an unsanctioned fight. And we were told it was going to be an exhibition, and we all kind of rolled our eyes at that. But I think that's exactly what we got, like a hard sparring session.
It was competitive.
It was competitive, but I 100% agree with you that both guys were either pulling punches. And I think a big part of that has to do with neither one of them wanted to like die of exhaustion. So, they were not going 100%. We didn't see anybody get like completely flatlined in a way that's going to make us sad or anything like that. I actually think these guys doing 2-minute rounds, which was clearly like all that they could handle, especially Roy Jones Jr.
Yeah, he looked a little gassed.
But I think he was pulling punches. I think Mike was pulling punches a little bit. I think this was actually what was advertised, which was an exhibition match. I think they were trying, and I think they both tried to get themselves into shape for this, but I don't think this was a 100%, I don't think they were either man was going 100%. And I think partly because they understand it's an exhibition and they weren't going to necessarily, but also because just cardio wise, they didn't like, I don't think Roy Jones Jr. could have gone 3-minute rounds. And I don't think he wanted to encourage Tyson to push the pace at all. And not to say it's not like Tyson looked good for his age, but don't get it twisted, right? I don't think he could have done 8 3-minute rounds that well either.
No. Yeah, I like the 2-minute rounds as well. And I think, if one of them were to get knocked out, I was ready for it, right? But they did it, and I was happy with it. And I know a lot of people are critical of the draw scorecard. I know one of those judges scored every round for Roy Jones, which was absolutely ridiculous. I thought Mike Tyson won the fight, right? Like, I thought he controlled more. I thought he threw more. And again, like, it was an exhibition. The judges were just there for shits and giggles, right? But it definitely wasn't a draw. But
it was like.
Draw was even weird. I don't know.
The judges were former fighters judging the fight remotely that had been hired by the promotion. So like they were going to probably just do a draw no matter what.
Yeah. And the California State Athletic Commission was, I think, pretty unhappy with the fact that they brought in 3, opinions or whatever you want. But the draw scorecard seemed a little bit, a little fixed, right? Like, come on.
Yeah.
I thought Mike Tyson clearly won the fight. It's like, were they told, hey, like, no matter what happens, make it a draw. One of you do this, one of you do this, the other one do that. You know what I'm saying? But, I mean, like I said, I didn't have any problem with it.
Yeah. I kind of thought that maybe it wasn't explicit, but it was definitely like a wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Hey, you're a big Roy Jones Jr. fan, right? Like, give us your quote unquote opinion on this fight as it's happening. Yeah. I mean, honestly, like I said, this was like, best case scenario. Nobody really taking it too seriously. I think from what I read, they both made over $1 million. So good for them. Like this, like I said, this feels like kind of the best case scenario for all involved. It's not like if we think of things on the other end of the spectrum, things that were disappointments, think of like Chuck versus Tito. 4 whatever.
Stop right there. That
is
literally that is the worst case scenario.
That's the other end.
The absolute worst case terrible scenario. And we didn't get that. So I was happy.
And the thing is, those guys probably didn't get paid that much, like Chuck and Tito, that is, for that last one. These guys got paid.
Like 20,000 pay-per-views.
Exactly. These guys got paid, kind of reminisced a little bit. Nobody got knocked out. They appeared to be in pretty good shape for their age. Like, as long as this is not like an every 6 months thing, because I could see the public losing interest real quick if this is like a common thing. But assuming this is kind of a once off, like both guys got paid, both guys are still healthy, I'm happy with it.
Well, so Mike, that brings up the next point, right? Mike after the fight said he definitely wants to do this again. He said he felt good. And like I said, like the old guy exhibition type thing, I kind of like how it turned out. I don't know how often, like you kind of said, they're going to be able to go back to this. But let me throw a name and something for you, and I want to get your opinion on it because, dude, ever since the fight, my mind's been churning for this one. I'll lay it out for you. There's a certain MMA fighter who just supposedly fought his last fight in the UFC. He's always been flirting with the idea of boxing, mainly with Roy Jones Jr. But Mike Tyson looked really good. He was definitely interested in another fight. Roy Jones was kind of, a little bit hesitant on it. What if they did an exhibition bout just like this between Anderson, Silva, and Mike Tyson? For me, dude, that would make a ton of sense, right? Because we just saw, like, they're not going in there to kill each other, right? I don't need to see Anderson Silva fighting the Uriah Halls of the world, right? We already went through that. Like, I think this could be a fun one-off type of thing. And if it does end up being Roy Jones versus Anderson Silva, I like that too. I'd like to see it again, man, whether it's Tyson, Anderson, Jones, Anderson, maybe you could even do Tyson, Evander Holyfield number 3. Who knows? But I kind of like it.
Yeah, I had honestly never thought about Silva against either Roy Jones or Mike Tyson. And honestly, man, like that kind of feels like competitive. Am I crazy? Like, because Tyson's so much older. And again, like if I don't mean to interrupt you, but if they are like not babysitting each other, right? But they're not really trying to kill each other. I think it would be a competitive, fun fight. And something like who would ever thought Mike Tyson versus Anderson Silva, right? That's crazy to think about, but why not? They could probably make some decent money off of it because you'd probably have basically the same people who bought this pay-per-view against
Absolutely.
Roy Jones Jr. with some added like MMA crossover
Yeah.
fans who have been wanting to see Anderson Silva in the boxing ring for some time.
Yeah.
I'm all about like these one-off if it's like that. Like we are really close to the line though where it becomes sad and I don't I don't want that to happen. I would also not be surprised at all if we saw Tyson Holyfield happen again.
I can see that. Yeah.
I think Evander Holyfield is fresh off a 2016 win over Mitt Romney in exhibition boxing or something like that. So,
Jesus.
but I feel like that the fact that this was successful to an extent leads me to believe that we're going to see at least one or maybe two more of these kind of novelty fights from Tyson.
Do you have any inclination on what you think the pay-per-view buys did?
Man,
Okay. Let me.
I would guess under one. Well, maybe over 100,000.
Oh,
but
Jesus!
not much.
I was gonna put the over under at 400,000.
Oh, I have no idea. It's just so. I mean,
I think it was Mike Tyson. Like everybody loves Mike Tyson. Like, who would have thought we'd see Mike Tyson fight in 2020? You know, I think that's what really grasped the people.
That's true.
Whereas, like maybe the second and third time, it's not going to do that numbers. But I think first time, I would say maybe 350,000.
That's maybe I'm totally underselling it just because I was not like crazy interested. But I will say, a lot of people reached out to me and were like, "Are you watching this Tyson fight tonight? Are you watching the Tyson
boxing
fight?"
Heads were pumped on it.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? And I feel like it's probably always going to be kind of a secret how many buys it got. It needs to do a fair amount if both those guys made over $1 million. And I would imagine Jake Paul made a pretty penny as well, and Nate Robinson. To pay them, I assume it's got to be have decent pay-per-view buys, but it's also the boxing model, right? They don't have to pay the promoter out of that like they do in the UFC. So who knows? I mean, it's really hard to gauge. Like I said, there were a bunch of people that I think normally don't come out, normally don't watch fights, and they did shell out money for this. But I also think there's a lot of younger people that really didn't care.
Did you have any thoughts, or do you have any thoughts on the Nate Robinson, Jake Paul fight?
I mean, Nate Robinson. Had that guy never seen a boxing match? I mean, I'm not saying
I don't think he ever saw any live sparring. I mean, he looked completely lost in there. And again, like, dude, he's getting clowned on the internet, but you know, I can see both sides of it where it's like, hey man, he went out there and fought, right? So I give him props, but also like he did not look prepared. And we kind of said it last week, like as much of like douchebags as the Paul brothers are, like they get legit training and they train hard, right? And they're young, they're athletic. So they have some potential, I'll say. Not sure how high the ceiling is, but there's something there. Nate Robinson, come on.
Well, they do enough training and they are athletic enough to like win these types of fights, which is really all they need to do. Like they don't need to be fighting other boxers, just fight other YouTube celebrities, former athletes, whatever. And they're clearly like taught well enough that they're going to win those boxing matches. I don't know, man. We are in the process of getting in a boxing specialist that we're going to talk to kind of talk about. I am so interested in how boxing has received this like influx of YouTube stars, quote unquote, and how it's affected that scene in general.
Yeah, I'm very interested in that too. I don't know. It's a different game from what it was many years ago, but
Dude.
I mean, let me ask you this really quick.
Yeah.
And again, this is probably a better question for when we do get a boxing analyst on, but is Jake Paul and Logan Paul, are they bad for boxing? Right? Because they get eyes on boxing, right? At the end of the day, you know, Jack was on this card. There's a couple good fighters on this card. Mike Tyson and Roy Jones, again, years and years out of their prime, but they were on this card. You know, say what you want about them, but they're going to bring extra eyes to it. So are they necessarily bad for boxing? Like, was Conor McGregor bad for boxing, right? That brought a ton of eyes onto the sport of boxing.
I honestly don't see the downside other than it's kind of like goofy.
It is.
Or, you know, if you are an old school boxing head and, you know, you want to just see the best fighters fight the best fighters. I understand your if that gives you pause, but like other than just having a goofy fight on the card, like what is the possible downside? Other, like presumably they're adding business, they're getting more viewers. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing this. I just don't see what is bad for boxing unless somebody is like, clutching at their pearls, thinking this is like ruining the sanctity of the sport. But that's complete bullshit. Like boxing, just like any other combat sport, is like a carnival type of situation where it's like if you can put on a weird fight that people are just want to see because it's weird, fucking do it. That's how MMA is. That's how boxing is. That's how all of combat sports are. Granted, there's of course like, you have legitimate boxers on these cards. You have really high level athletes on these cards. But personally, man, if people are like shitting on the YouTube stars doing this or whatever, I feel like you got to poop in your pants. Like it's like, I mean, it's not my cup of tea for sure.
Right.
But that doesn't mean it's like has to be like something that makes me angry, that upsets me. You know what I mean?
I mean, these guys are kind of the smartest guys in the room, right? They come off as dumbasses, like just these dumb dudes, but they have some modicum of skill, right? They're not out there fighting absolute killers. They're making a ton of money, pretty much fighting amateur boxing, right? They got to be the smartest guys in the room. This man just fought Nate Robinson with a ton of eyes on him. I think got paid a pretty good penny. I heard him and Nate made about $600,000 a piece. It's a pretty damn good payday for what, an amateur boxing fight with pro title under. You know what I'm saying?
Dude, I think you just tapped into why people resent them. And
Exactly.
it's because they're not, they do just have a modicum of skill. And they're here making tons of money. But the truth is, man, if everybody could be a YouTube star, if it was that easy, I'd be a fucking millionaire YouTube star. You'd be a millionaire YouTube star. It's not that easy. These guys did whatever they did at the right time to make themselves relevant. Whether or not I agree with why they're relevant is beside the point. They're doing the damn thing. They're hustling. Like I said, not my cup of tea. I'm not gonna like rush to the TV to see these guys fight. But at the same time, clearly they have an audience. Clearly they're attracting some sort of viewer. And yeah, more power to them. If they can make that money off a little bit of training, go for it.
Have you ever watched any of their YouTube videos, like Jake or Logan Paul? I don't even know what their gimmick is. I don't know what they talk about.
I don't. That's like another. We could have probably a YouTube expert on here to talk about that. I don't.
I know,
I
right?
think they just do like. It's that style of video where they're just like kind of narrating shit that they're doing, right? It's not even like
I literally have no idea what the hell these guys do or what they talk about.
I'm pretty sure they just like exist. It's weird.
Yeah, right.
I
don't know. In box.
Like the Seinfeld of YouTube, like the YouTube show about nothing.
Yeah, I have no idea, but for them, I guess it's working, right? Let's shift to some UFC action that happened this weekend. Last second jumble up, right? I believe, what was it, Friday before the weigh-ins, or was it Thursday that Curtis Blades had to pull out because he caught COVID? And again, Will wish Curtis Blades, hope he gets well very soon.
I think it was Friday. I think it was just like the during weigh-ins, the news
last
broke
second,
there.
right? Yeah. Blades comes out, right, and they're looking at scheduling that fight, I believe, in like January. Maybe it'll fall on that Conor McGregor card. Who knows? But we go ahead with Devin Clark and Anthony Smith in the main event. Respect to both of these guys, not only for bumping up to the main event on short notice, but for also saying, let's make it 5 rounds for the fans. I always appreciate that. But Anthony Smith, man, looks extremely good. This is kind of a step down for him, right? But he passed the test, right? We saw in his last, 2 fights, man, especially his last fight against Alexander Rakic. He just did not look good. He looked disinterested. He let Rakic just do whatever he wanted to him. And we were kind of maybe thinking that was the end of the run for Anthony Smith. It was a good Cinderella story, being almost like a journeyman and making it all the way to the title. But I think he kind of shut up a lot of the naysayers here, gets a big win. Textbook triangle finish over Devin Clark in the first round. That was super impressive for him.
Yeah, I think he may have saved his UFC career here. I mean, he was Granted, it would have been 3 losses against relatively top competition, even though Devin
Absolutely.
Clark was not ranked. But I think if he loses to Devin Clark here, especially if he gets finished, we're talking about Anthony Smith in Bellator.
Yeah.
I think which might be a better spot for him anyway. But regardless, I think he really really needed this win here. His back was against the wall, and Devin Clark like had a path to victory, especially how lethargic Anthony Smith has looked at his past 2 fights. But yeah, I mean, he's always been pretty good off of his back. Not a great takedown artist, but a takedown defender rather, but always, almost always, I should say, pretty aggressive off of his back. And I think Devin Clark, we more or less know what his ceiling is now after this fight.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Anthony Smith kind of, yeah, I think I won't say righted the ship, but at least he gave himself, some sort of life for the time being. And again, that division is kind of open, right? The boogeyman left. John Jones is no longer there. Jan Blachowicz sits at the top. He's going to be tough to take down. Israel Adesanya might be coming in the division. We have no idea. But, he looked good against Glover Teixeira early and then got absolutely mauled. Dude, I think the biggest thing for Anthony Smith right now is he needs to take some damn time off. He got mauled by Glover Teixeira, and I thought he took that Rakic fight way too quick. And then even this fight was a pretty damn quick turnaround. August and November, he gets the win. Take some time off, man. Heal up your body, reset, and then try to make another run at this.
Yeah, I'm down with that. And he's clearly like he's not a big name, but I think he's a relatively like the UFC uses him. This was like his
seventh main event, dude.
So like they can lean on him when they need somebody in a main event at light heavyweight or middleweight if he ever goes back. I don't think he's going to though. Yeah, I mean, I guess props to Anthony Smith keeping his career up a little bit longer, but I also feel like at the same time he's going to run into in the next fight or maybe 2 fights he's going to run into another Alexander Rakic type, another up and coming 205er who's going to give him all kinds of problems, and that seems to be kind of where he has probably settled in to the UFC. I mean, this matchup against Devin Clark made me think that he's playing gatekeeper to the elite of the division.
Right. I would think so. Dude, one of the biggest stars on this card, Miguel Baeza in the co-main event, keeps his record perfect. I believe he moves to 10-0, defeats Takeshi Sato in the second round via arm triangle choke. This guy looks like the real deal, man. He looks really good. I'd like to see him take not a huge step up, but maybe a guy like a Nico Price, who is always a tough out. He's fought some of the best. But Baeza looks like the total package. He can strike. He can grapple. Super fit. Really like what he's got going on.
Yeah, and he was somebody that was only kind of on my radar just because of his record. But yeah, apparently he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu, which is...
He is.
Not something I knew. But yeah, I feel like there's no reason to rush him here. I don't hate the Nico Price fight. I mean, that's a really tough fight. I'm trying to think of somebody maybe like Lyman Good, somebody who has some experience, a little bit more experience than Takeshi Sato, but is maybe not like a consistently top 15 ranked fighter. I'm trying to think. Somebody like Lyman Good, like a Chance Rencounter, any one of those guys who have been around, have fought in the UFC's welterweight division, but are not, he doesn't need a massive step up, I don't think.
Yeah, he looked good though. Another one, this is a sentimental favorite for me, being a Connecticut guy, but Parker Porter, man, gets his first win in the UFC. And man, I just did the prelim primer actually before this with Daniel Vreeland, and we went off air and we were kind of talking about Parker Porter, man. And dude, this guy has just been around forever, man. I remember I saw Parker Porter, and again, I've known him for a long time, right? He's a Connecticut guy, but I saw him fight John Jones in John Jones' last fight before the UFC. Man, I remember seeing him headline a reality fighting card against Gabriel Gonzaga at the Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut. He took some time off. He came back. I mean, this guy is literally a legend of New England MMA and Connecticut MMA especially. So to see him go out there and get a win and put on, dude, an absolute banger of a fight for heavyweights, man. Those guys were throwing gas all the way through the fight when they were tired, when they were, fresh. That one hit home for me, man. I was super excited to see Parker get that win. That guy deserves everything he gets, man. Really good, honest dude, and a damn good fighter.
Yeah, props to him. And Parisian was a pretty decent favorite, if I
He
recall.
was. Yeah, Parisian's no slouch, man. That was
quite a bit of hype behind him.
Banger of a fight, man.
Yeah.
I can't believe they didn't get fight of the night. I know there were some other good finishes on the card, but apparently they didn't get fight of the night. There's 4 performance bonuses given.
Yeah, I was gonna say they just didn't do any fights of the night.
Did anyone else stick out to you on this card? It was a pretty solid card.
Yeah. I mean, the first 2 fights, Nate Maness looked really good against Luke Sanders, who was having some success early, and also that knockout from Sue Madaerge. I'm not sure if
Sue Maderji.
Sue Maderji. I mean, that was fun just to start it off. But yeah, I mean, this was kind of a thin card. We talked about it last week. That got even thinner at the very last second. So
yeah. And then we move on to this weekend's card that has seen all sorts of shuffling going on at the top. We're still a week away, right? So hopefully we get the main event that is now slated. But first it was supposed to be Jack Hermansson taking on Darren Till. I think we all love that fight. Darren Till has to pull out. Then Kevin Holland steps up, and we're like, damn, all right. Kevin Holland takes this event. He's got some steam rolling. He had that little beef with Adesanya. We kind of talked about it when this got announced. We were like, damn, like now he gets to prove against the top contender to see if he really does belong there. He gets COVID and has to pull out, and now we get Marvin Vettori in versus Jack Hermansson. And I got to be honest, man, I might like this fight the most out of the 3 fights that were announced because Vettori is a super aggressive guy with great grappling, and what's Hermansson's strength? It's grappling. Dude, this is going to be a good fight, man. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, I actually think this is a pretty stylistically interesting fight.
It is.
And at least I'm having some trouble. Like, I don't even know right now as I'm talking who I'm gonna officially pick to win. I do think it's a really interesting fight. I don't know. I mean, I was very excited to see Kevin Holland in there, but
I was too.
He's like you said, he got another fight down the line. So it's not the end of the world. But yeah, I think this is a really interesting fight.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Vettori at one time scheduled to fight Omari Akhmedov? And it just felt really weird because Akhmedov just lost to Chris Weidman. Like, this feels like the proper step up for Marvin Vettori. He's been calling from the rooftops for a step up in competition. You remember he had that pretty damn close fight with Israel Adesanya. Mm-hmm. I mean, dude, it's if you want to fast line yourself back to an Adesanya rematch in the top of that division, Jack Hermansson is dude you're gonna have to go through. So yeah, I like this stylistically. I'm in the same boat as you. I don't even know who to favor right now.
Well, let me talk through why I think it's so difficult to pick. Is on one hand, I think this is definitely Hermansson has a skill advantage. Vettori has like a size and athleticism advantage in general. Obviously, there's exceptions to that, but in general, like part of me thinks Jack Hermansson was able to heel hook Kelvin Gastelum real quick. He was able to submit David Branch real quick. He was able to submit Gerald Meerschaert real quick. He was almost had Jacare Souza in that Joker team, like arm in or arm to the side, arm in guillotine style. So on one hand, it's like, well, does Jack Hermansson have the skill to finish Marvin Vettori? And I think, yes, he does. I think on the mat, he has the skill to do it. But at the same time, Jack Hermansson seems to really struggle against kind of guys that go beast mode on him, if that makes any sense. If you go back to his fight with Thiago Santos, he was winning that fight. It was a short one, but he was winning that fight until Santos just decided, all right, I'm going to go berserker mode on this guy. And Hermansson kind of shells up, and he doesn't wear those strikes super well. Even Jacare Souza, when Jacare was dead tired, was just winging bombs. And, Hermansson, again, doesn't respond super well to just kind of naked aggression. And then even the Cannonier fight, when he lost, Hermansson did get dropped on the feet, but when he falls down and Cannonier follows up with ground strikes, he really doesn't like take damage super well. So I think this is like, you know, if you told me the fight ends in the first couple rounds, I'm probably going to think Hermanson wins. If it goes to a decision, I'm probably going to think Vettori wins. But at the same time, it's not even entirely clear who has the cardio advantage. Hermanson fights like a guy who has great cardio because he is like super active and hopping around, but he does slow down quite a bit. Vettori is a fucking hoss and looks like he should get tired after.
Yeah.
He looks like he should get tired after 2.5 minutes, but he does do something that a lot of hosses do well, which is conserve his energy. Like he knows if I go bananas right away, I'm probably going to gas myself out. So there's a really kind of interesting dynamic here at play that I'm not entirely sold on. Gun to my head, I think I'm going to pick Vettori because I think Hermanson just does not deal well with big, aggressive guys that are not particularly scared by his power or his submissions that can confidently get into his face. But man, all at the same time, I wouldn't be at all shocked if Hermanson like snatches his neck up in a transition and taps him early.
Yeah, gun to my head, I would just for, I guess for this, I'm with you. I'm torn, right? This seems like a very hard fight to call. I would lean Hermanson. I think he's got the bigger fights to his name. I still don't know how finished of a product Vettori is. He looked really good against Adesanya, but outside of that, he hasn't fought the level of competition that Hermanson has fought. I really do hope they grapple. I think the grappling exchanges could be freaking excellent.
Well, I think if they grapple, you're going to see Hermanson has better finishing ability on the mat and just better overall technique, but Vettori probably has better positional awareness. Like he's going to fight for top control really, really fucking hard, which is a benefit. And he's also that hoss factor. Like Vettori on the mat, you'll see him sometimes like be on bottom and he kind of does the Derek Lewis, like I decide I want to be on top now, and like just shrimps, gets to a double leg and just powers through it. I could see him doing that to Hermanson, but Hermanson's got more, I think, finishing skill. So I hope it hits the mat. I think it's a really interesting kind of play of styles on the mat. I actually think even though Vettori probably considers himself the better striker, I think it's probably pretty close on the feet. Like pretty
close.
Yeah, pretty like tit for tat. I could see Hermanson maybe outlanding Vettori, but Vettori landing the bigger shots, that kind of stuff. It's a really close fight all the way around.
Take a stab at the odds. I have them up right now, so I'll tell you if you're right or wrong.
I would bet that Vettori is a like -150 favorite.
Wow. You're pretty damn close, man. Vittori's a -130 favorite with comeback on Hermanson at +100. I would kind of see it the opposite way. I would have thought that Hermanson would have been the favorite. But I'm glad that the odds are very close because, again, like we're talking about it here. I don't know if I'm going to be picking Jack Hermansson Fight Night. Like, this is a really damn good fight, and like I said, I almost like it the best out of the 3 fights for Hermanson. Darren Till, Kevin Holland, Marvin Vettori. Stylistically, I really like this one.
Yeah, I was ready to pick Hermanson to beat Darren Till, to be totally honest. And I think stylistically this is more fun, and but I also do think it's a lower name, obviously, but a harder fight. So this is, props to Hermanson. He didn't have to take this fight, I'm sure, but props to him for taking a pretty damn hard fight. And I don't even know if Vettori is even technically ranked right now.
I think he's like 13 or 13. Yeah.
Which is, it's a risky fight for Hermanson because Vettori is super serious.
Yeah. Co-main event, Ovince St. Preux taking on Jamal Hill. One fight I really like on this card is Movsar Evloev taking on Nate Landwehr. It looks like it's the opener for the main card. That fight is going to be must-watch TV. Evloev is a stud.
Evloev's wrestling, man. Like, if you guys want to see some incredible like takedown technique, this is the guy. I'm super excited. And Landwehr, I would imagine Landwehr is a pretty big underdog, but he's super legit too. Like I don't think he's a pushover by any means.
Yeah, I would imagine it's pretty damn close. Anything else you want to make the fans aware of? I know I kind of poo-pooed the co-main event, but it's Ovince St. Preux taking on another rising prospect. It seems like Ovince is in that stage of his career where he's pretty much just a gatekeeper to the top, right?
Yeah,
Or
I
at least
mean,
the top 10. Because I don't think Jamal Hill is even ranked.
yeah, no, this feels like a little bit too much too soon for Jamal Hill, but you
Yeah,
know, I mean, if we're constantly talking about the youth movement at 205, so it feels like a lot too much too soon for Jamal Hill. This will just be his ninth pro fight against OSP, who's been fighting for fucking ever.
forever.
But if Jamal Hill gets past him, then yeah, we got a new name at 205 to be more excited about. Looking down, I know Roman Dolidze had a really violent and fun UFC debut. Matt Wyman is on this card again for some
Love me
reason.
some Matt Wyman, bro. Love it.
I guess. Louis Smolka and Jose Quinones, I think, is a rescheduled from earlier. That should be fun.
Ilya Taporia and Damon Jackson is a really, really good fight.
Yeah, who did Taporia? He had a really fun UFC debut too, right?
Literally on the
Youssef
tip of my tongue.
Zalal. He beat
Yeah,
Youssef
Yusef
Zalal.
Zalal. Yep.
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
means he's actually very good.
Smoked him too.
Yeah.
Yeah, did really well. It's. I mean, there's some fun fights. Some good prospects on this card, but again, we're at the end of the year. Cards are kind of thinning out, but as of right now, that last card of the year is looking mighty juicy.
Yeah. Yeah, they're thinning out, but like you're saying, like we got Jeff Neal and Wonder Boy coming up. We got some certified bangers that I think are pants off type situations.
Let's end the show with this, Ben, because I think it needs to be addressed. We haven't really talked about it too much lately, but I mean, I think it's coming back around. It's how, I don't want to say in peril because I don't think it's at that level yet, but are we in danger of having some events being canceled and going back to no MMA now? Because if you look at like the recent cards, like this past weekend, we had Curtis Blades pull out at the last second. This coming weekend's main event has been affected with the shuffling in the main event fighters. There was a report that Khamzat Chimaev has COVID, which he refuted. I mean, the numbers are spiking up again. And again, I don't want to get too far off topic. We're talking just MMA, and other sports have been dealing with their own effects. But do you think MMA is in danger right now? Or do you think they're just going to keep trucking forward with, however they're doing it?
I mean, it feels like they're going to keep trucking forward with however they're doing it. But as you brought up, like cases in the U.S. are spiking right now. I would imagine that, especially with a new president coming in, state governments and federal governments are probably going to be instituting some more changes, some more restrictions, even not just with a new president, like now they are. I know California is like doubling down on its restrictions. Even just here in Kansas City, they've like upped the restrictions. So if things continue going like they are, I could see, maybe MMA slowing down at a lower level. I could see a promotion like maybe LFA or, some of the more regional promotions having to reclose their doors, so to speak, if they're unable to have any sort of event. But I would be pretty shocked if the UFC has to slow down at all, considering what they went through the first time through to like put on shows.
Yeah.
It feels like there's going to be kind of nothing stopping them at this moment. But yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. Like there's regional events happening here in Kansas City with like, I think limited crowd, but a crowd, and events and amateur fighters. And that just feels, I wouldn't be shocked if local governments put a complete kibosh on that. I don't know if there's any local regional MMA happening in New England. I think, is CES back?
I want to say they're coming. I don't even know, man.
But
I really don't.
I think that's where you asked, like, is MMA going
so.
away? I think they'll, outside of the UFC especially, and then to a lesser degree Bellator and the bigger promotions, I think outside of that, it's still going to be really slim pickings because it's going to be hard. Like I'm thinking of specifically events that happen here in Kansas City. I know for a fact with the new restrictions, they can't happen anymore. Maybe they could get them together with like absolutely zero crowd. But even then, you put on an MMA show, you got a huge group of people together. You
Yeah.
have commission officials, referees,
Corners,
everybody's like
fighters.
together. It's really hard to social distance. And if you're asking a promotion like the Kansas City Fighting Alliance to like follow all these rules, it seems like a pretty big ask.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think it needs to you know I don't want to sound, I don't want to demean Curtis Blades or anybody like that, but you can kind of roll with the punches when a guy like Curtis Blades has to pull out, right? But we got a guy coming up next month that is pretty damn big in the MMA scene, and that man is Conor McGregor. Um, if guys like that start getting COVID and start having to pull out, I think it makes a lot bigger of a deal on the pockets and the overall scene, as opposed to a Curtis Blades or some of these other fighters. But you know, I'm with you. I think the UFC is going to be all steam ahead, right? But it's definitely concerning. We've seen a lot of it. We've seen it rampant, in the NFL. I think their season is more in peril than, let's say, like, the UFC or Bellator shutting down. But I definitely think the question needs to be begged. I hope we don't get to that. Again, I don't want to get too far off topic with any of this craziness, but go ahead.
I was just gonna say you bring up a good point. That the real issue here is not the Curtis Bladeses of the world. It's not the Louis
No.
Smolkas. It's the Conor McGregors. It's the
Yes.
Jorge Masvidals.
Yes.
Who, say what you will about Jorge Masvidal's politics, that guy is not afraid of COVID. So
He
he
is not
feels like
afraid
he's
of COVID.
probably gonna, you know what I mean? Like it's the big stars that
It
we
is.
should be really worried
Yeah.
about pulling out, and UFC having nothing to do
Having nothing.
when they do pull out.
Because, with Conor McGregor fights, they don't really stack the cards that much.
Yeah, it's not. I
The
believe
Conor
that
McGregor
Poirier
fight is
card
looking
is
like
pretty-
this card this weekend. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? Like, but it's Conor McGregor at the top. You got it. You got to shell out the money for it. You got to watch. So yeah, I mean, if Conor McGregor pulls out and you don't have a title fight or nothing backing it up, like, what do you do at that point? So I mean, we shall see, right? And again, like you mentioned, the San Francisco 49ers can't even play in their home stadium for the next, I want to say, like 3 weeks or something because
Wow.
of mandates and stuff. So a lot of moving parts in different parts of the U.S. and the world. So we shall see.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the UFC should just like why are they still doing business in the US, right? I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I feel like this country is by far the most dangerous in terms of COVID exposure.
Hey, it's
Like
it's not even a question. It's not even close.
just fucking move your I guess other countries won't let American fighters in probably or American citizens in, but it just feels like it's the most risky to do it here, but I guess the UFC is doing it here because they're allowed to.
But
It might be really hard to do in other countries.
maybe do like a full bubble scenario at Fight Island. Move
Yeah.
fully to Fight Island, do a full bubble scenario. These guys, I don't know how, I don't know the numbers around it, but maybe they have to get there even sooner, right? You contain them, you set up training for them. I have no idea how they got to do it, but we
Well,
saw the NBA have a ton of success with the bubble scenario, and again, different sport. I don't know, man. I don't know. That's why I don't
well,
get paid the big bucks.
I think they have to do a bubble wherever it is because right now in Vegas it's not a bubble. I can like you fly there commercially. You fly on fucking Southwest.
Yeah.
You go to the hotel and you check in and you get tested and they tell you please don't leave. I assume most fighters probably maybe heed that advice. But it's not a bubble. They just test often.
Yeah.
And then those guys, like they are told in between tests not to leave the hotel, like I said, but they're flying there on fucking Southwest. They're walking through the Nevada airport. They're, getting in a car with a UFC person driving them to the hotel. Like
Right.
there's just so much risk involved that it feels like, yeah, if they can afford it, do a bubble where you fly everybody there. They test people in the United States,
Yeah.
then fly them there on a private plane to wherever these fights are happening. And just stay in the bubble.
Yeah. I don't know. We shall see, man. I think these next couple months are going to be telling. With everything spiking and everything going on, we shall see. But as of right now, we got a lot of MMA. Oh, man, one more thing. I almost forgot about this, and I forgot about it last week. Before we go, this weekend as well, I believe. Man, let me get the date. It's going to be at a weird time because it is one. But yeah, Friday, December 4th, Gary Tonin makes his long-awaited debut on I love this name, One FC Big Bang. But Gary Tonin is taking on Kayomi Masushima. Gary Tonin, one of the best prospects in MMA. If you have access for it, watch Gary Tonin fight. The dude is an absolute stud, and he's going to be a household name very soon.
Yeah, I'm very excited. I hope that they can continue to give him fights. I know he was having issues with, I think, injuries and stuff as well, but I also think it sounded like there was maybe some negotiation issues, but hopefully, he seems like a guy that wants to fight often. So I hope they can do that for him.
Yeah, I hope so too, man. He's one of the best prospects in MMA.
For sure.
I don't have anything else. You got anything?
No, man, that's it for me. I think we covered it all.
I think we did. Enjoy the fights. As always, thank you guys for listening. Please hit that subscribe button on YouTube, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, wherever you listen. We're all over the place. We appreciate the support. We'll talk to you all soon.
Face the pain.